Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with
Blessing Aiche,
Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange,
shaping policy,
advancing development.
All right, it's the dawn of a new day, another week, and another opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, national development, and the economy. Maybe you're wondering what's going on. It's still Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. You know, Early Exchange will always get bigger and better, and that is obvious with what you've seen this morning. Everything is looking brighter, everything is looking beautiful. Today we'll be looking at the banking sector. Don't forget that this is your program. You can be part of this conversation by going on our YouTube platform or on all our social media platforms at Souk News to share your view. It's your program, so get set, because we are set to give you the best of programming today. We hope that you spend the next 3 hours with us will make your day worthwhile. We'll give you value for your time. It's a beautiful day. Whatever you have with you, your cup of tea, you have your coffee, if you have your breakfast, that's good. So let's get set, because it's going to be a wonderful ride this morning. Let's set the ball rolling with news update for us to get a view of what is happening globally. And Adesua is standing by in our newsroom to take us around the world. Adesua, how are you today? Good morning.
Very well. Good morning, Femi, and good morning to you out there, and welcome to the morning news update on Souk News, your choice station for developmental news in Nigeria and around the world. I'm Adesua Iromoseli. In the news, federal government removes value-added tax and custom duty on cooking gas imports. Central Bank of Nigeria warns against circulation of counterfeit bank notes amid cash shortages. Kenya Airways braces for potential flight disruptions as global spare part shortage hits maintenance schedule. Apple closes third-party applications, allowing Android devices to access iMessage. Remember, you can follow and engage with us on all our social media platforms at Souk News. We would love to hear from you. Now the news in full. The federal government has waived custom duty and value-added tax on the importation of liquefied petroleum gas, commonly known as cooking gas, and its associated equipment. The move is aimed at bringing down the cost of cooking gas across the country. In a letter signed by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edun, the government noted that the decision aligns with President Bola Tinubu's commitment to improving the investment climate, increase supply, reduce market prices, and promote clean cooking practices. The directive also applies to all items such as gas cylinders, gas leak detectors, steel pipes, among others. Still on the energy sector, Dangote Petrochemicals has purchased 1 million barrels of Agbami crude grade from Shell International Trading and Shipping Company Limited. This purchase signifies the first phase of a larger agreement, as Dangote Petroleum Refineries plans to source a total of 6 million barrels of crude oil from various suppliers. The initial 1 million barrel will support the refinery's operations with a processing capacity of 350 barrels per day. In addition, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) will supply the cargoes in the coming weeks, while the sixth and final cargo will be provided by ExxonMobil to enable the refinery to commence production of diesel, aviation fuel, and LPG, followed by petroleum premium motor spirit PMS. In the same vein, the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) has called on the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPC), Mele Kyari, to release information regarding the daily production and export of oil in Nigeria, as well as the revenue generated since the removal of petrol subsidies in May 2023. SERAP also urged Kyari to disclose how much of the oil revenues have been remitted to the public treasury and to provide details on the alleged payment of 11 trillion naira as subsidy. The organization emphasized the importance of transparency in order to prevent the diversion of funds and to increase public trust in usage of the money for the benefit of Nigerians. Away from that, the energy sector, the Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a warning about the circulation of counterfeit banknotes, particularly in higher denominations across major cities in the country. The bank advised individuals and businesses to be vigilant and report any suspected counterfeit notes to the relevant authorities. This comes as bank depositors continue to face cash shortages with rationing of cash payments over the counter and withdrawal limits on ATMs. The CBN noted the need for alternative modes of payment and urges financial institutions and the public to take precautionary measures to prevent the acceptance and distribution of counterfeit notes. Moving on, the Minister of State for Youth Development, Ayodele Olawande, said the federal government is set to introduce an internship program within the framework of the National Youth Service Corps in order to enhance the practical skills and employability of young graduates. The program aims to bridge the gap between academic learning and real-world work experience by providing corps members with hands-on training and relevant skills for the modern workforce. The government also revealed its intention to inaugurate a technical committee on youth development in the coming weeks, which will focus on skill development for Nigerian youths. The Managing Director of the Nigerian Port Authority, NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, has dismissed allegations of missing funds from the authority's account. Responding to reports that $1.8 billion was missing, Bello Koko clarified that the amount in question is not missing but rather classified as bad debt. He explained that some of the debts were a result of defective concession agreement dating back to 2006, which are currently being reviewed and corrected. He noted that these debts cannot be recovered and should be written off the NPA's book to start the new year on a clean slate. Kenya Airways has issued a statement indicating possible disruptions and delay in its flight operations over the next 2 weeks. The airline cited challenges in obtaining necessary aircraft components for maintenance, attributing the issue to a global shortage of spare parts. The CEO of the aviation firm, Alan Kilavuka, expressed concern over the impact of the airline's maintenance schedule and the extended grounding of certain aircrafts. The spare parts scarcity is expected to persist for approximately 2 weeks. And to the southern part of the country, as part of its commitment to driving economic growth in the state, Edo State has launched the 2024 Business Enabling Reform Action Plan, BERAB, The plan, unveiled during a private sector consultation forum, aims to address critical challenges faced by businesses in the state. It includes initiatives such as implementing the Edo State Export Strategy Plan, developing an export policy, establishing cluster schemes for smallholder farmers, reviewing the Edo State electricity law, exploring renewable energy options, and revitalizing the Edo MSME Trust Fund. The government also plans to enhance data gathering and management capabilities and establish clear channels for communication and feedback. We'll take a breather now and return with more stories. Stay with us. Glad to know you're still with us, and remember to engage with us on all our various social media platforms. Your feedback is very important to us. Away from Nigeria, the military regime of Mali and Niger have jointly announced their decision to denounce their double taxation agreement with France. They both expressed dissatisfaction with France's hostile attitude towards their state and the imbalance in these agreements, which result in significant revenue losses for both countries. The agreement will expire within 3 months, although the practical implications of this denouncement remains unclear. These agreements cover personal and corporate income tax, inheritance tax, and registration duties. This denouncement follows similar action by Burkina Faso, another Sahelian country that experienced a military takeover in 2022. The Zimbabwean government has announced John Mushayamvahu, a seasoned banker, the new governor of the central bank starting from next year. The decision comes as the term of the current governor, John Manguya, comes to an end by April 2022. Manguya will transition to the role of CEO at the recently activated Mutapa Investment Fund, which is a sovereign wealth fund. Despite criticism over inflation and a failed attempt to reintroduce a local currency under Manguya's leadership, government officials remain optimistic about the country's economic growth and expect stability in currency and prices by 2024. We move to the Middle East. White Shield, a leading organization in trade policy analysis, has introduced the Global Trade Resilience Index, GTRI, to address the pressing need for sustainable economic development. The group assesses countries' ability to absorb and recover from trade shocks, helping them identify areas of improvement across 58 indicators. Among the top GTRI performers are the high-income countries such as Germany, the Netherlands, and the United States, showcasing their strong trade networks and diversified product portfolio. China, despite its global importance as a trading hub, ranks 9th due to weaknesses in its institutional framework. The United Arab Emirates stands out as the top performer in the Arab region, leveraging its role as a global trading hub and world-class infrastructure. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia follows closely with significant progress in economic diversification and support for business-friendly policies. Still in the Middle East, Dubai has unveiled plans to achieve carbon neutrality, setting a target of reducing emissions by 50% by 2030. This commitment builds upon Dubai's decade-long efforts in transitioning towards clean energy and aligns with its goal of achieving net zero emissions by 2050. The plan, announced during the UAE's hosting of COP28, demonstrates Dubai's dedication to environmental sustainability and its commitment to the objectives of the Paris Agreement. The government is focused on consolidating Dubai's status as a city that offers a high quality of life while prioritizing environmental protection, resource conservation, and renewable energy. Away from the Middle East, the CEO of Arm Holding PLC, Ren Haas, has expressed concerns about the potential loss of human capability to machines and the need for safeguards in artificial intelligence systems. In an interview recently, Haas emphasized the importance of having overrides or backdoors to allow for system shutdown if necessary. With Arm's global influence, as an estimated 70% of the world's population interacts with Arm's design products in some form, Haas' statement highlights the responsibility of technology companies to address the potential risk associated with AI. And finally, in response to security concerns, Apple Incorporated has announced the closure of third-party applications that allow Android devices to utilize the iMessage service for communication with iPhone users. The company stated that it took proactive measures to safeguard its users by blocking methods that exploited fake credentials to gain access to iMessage. These techniques were deemed to pose significant risk for user security and privacy, potentially exposing metadata and enabling the transmission of unwanted messages, spam, and phishing attacks. And with that, we've come to the end of the morning news update right here on Souk News. Stay tuned as Early Exchange continues with more analysis. I'm Adesowa Iramasele. Thanks for watching.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souk News. If you're not watching Souk News, I pity you, but keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timida Kolo and you're watching Souk News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souk News. Guys, keep watching Souk News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souk News is your station.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souk Enlightenment.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, thank you, Adesra, for taking us round the world with your news update. It's still Early Exchange. It's time for us to do news analysis now, where we look at headlines that are trending globally in the business world, in the national, has to do with national development. It's a beautiful day. It's a great day, and I'm not alone as usual. We'll have the best team here. Blessing, good morning. How are you today?
I'm very well. Good morning, Femi.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
It's the dawn of a new day, a
Exactly.
a new set.
Yes, of course, because we're already in the Utah. So
Yeah.
we need to reflect that Christmas. We can smell it not from afar anymore.
Yeah, that's great.
So close.
Great. Chooks is here, the latest in Dotty when it comes to the Council of the Wise Men.
Okay.
Chooks, good morning. How are you today?
Thank you very much. I'm still expecting my certificate. Don't worry. Good morning.
No, we'll do the induction first, then the certificate will come.
We'll follow.
Okay, I'll add that to my CV.
That's great. Glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Good morning to you, viewers. Thank you for always tuning in and joining us on Early Exchange. As always, you know that we'll provide you insights as it concerns business, economy, and development. Interestingly, there are new developments. We'll be bringing them to you much later. But first, the ones that you've been updated on as far as current happenings globally by Adesua Erimosele. Let's take a deeper look into them and help you make sense of them.
All right, we're going to start with the first story. The federal government has decided to remove a value-added tax and custom duties on cooking gas, what you generally known as cooking gas, but it's liquefied, gas. Now, let's look at the implication of this. There are three sides to it. On the part of the government, who has decided to remove the custom duties and value-added tax. Now, the government is doing this with intention to reduce the price of cooking gas. You're aware that in recent times, the prices, have increased, all because of the cost of production, it has to do with the cost of custom duty, value-added tax. The other side to it is on the part of the marketers who are embarking on this import, what will be the implication to them, and also to the consumer, the end users. You're aware that for every business person, you are after, staying in business and also getting profit. But when the cost of sourcing for a product has increased, definitely the burden will be pushed to the end users who are the consumers. So that's why in recent times, you have hike in the prices of cooking gas. But the federal government deems it fit, this is the necessary thing to do at this time to beat down the price of cooking gas. Let me take it to Chooks. Let me start with you. There are three sides to it. And I want us to paint all the sides on the part of the federal government. What would be the implication of this? Perhaps loss of revenue. Then on the part of the marketers, what would be the implication, and for the end users?
Okay. Thank you very much, Femi. And season's greetings to you. I love this set.
Great.
Now, let's start on the part of the government. I want to say thank you to the Tinubu-led for the people. Now, yes, they will lose revenue, but what you're losing, the populace are at least gaining it. Right now, the price is 1,003 for 1 kg of cooking gas. So if you're buying 12 kg for the family size, it's about 13,005. They give you a discount on that. So if you're buying cooking gas for 13,005, make sure you don't cook beans. Then now let's leave it. We have no business importing cooking gas. It's a I'm not looking at from this government part of it. Now, we have seriously no business importing cooking gas. It's a slight on our face. I'm not talking about fuel, I'm not talking about petrol. Why? We flare methane every day. Every day. So imagine January to November 2022, we flared about 5.6 cubic months. Is this not the cooking gas we're looking for? So what I would advise, if we, let's not throw blames, the next thing this administration should do is tell whoever is exploring, cut your flaring by 50%. Out of that 50%, convert 25%, work on 25% and give us cooking gas. If you want to do whatever rebate or tax or you want to do. We won't have that problem. Let's not forget about the environment that we are destroying. And we've been flaring for over 50 years. So imagine 700 million in 11 months. Multiply that by 60. So see how much we're losing. We're losing money. We're destroying the environment. We're not having the cooking gas. What are we doing to ourselves? We have no business. We have no business having issues with cooking gas. Not at all. Then for those of you that everywhere that is using cooking gas, right now, let's keep hoping that the administration will do something after this. I know they have other plans. At a point in time, cooking gas came down from 11 to 7. Then it went back. So whatever they did that brought it to 7. Please, this is Christmas.
All right, for those wondering, where is the wise man, Dr. Idahosa Osamaze? Yes, he's here with us this morning, but he joins us virtually. Idahosa, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange for our news analysis this morning.
Femi, good morning. Good morning, Blessing. Good morning, dear viewers.
All right, if you can hear me, we're looking at the decision by the federal government to remove value-added tax on import of cooking gas and then to also reduce custom duties. Like I said, there are 3 sides to it, and I want us to look at all the sides. On the part of the federal government, what will be the implication on the part of the marketers who also are part of the stakeholders? Then we'll also look at the consumers who are the end users of those products. What will be the implication? Let me have your take.
Yeah, it's good news to those who buy cooking gas, but I don't know how much of a good news it will be to government, especially given the fact that there's a lot of expectation from the same people from the government to perform, and especially to do magic, looking at the challenge that we face in terms of building infrastructure, investing in social scheme. The truth of the matter is that, of course, government revenue is going down because all the projections that, for example, the FRS had made and the Nigerian Customs Service had made, of course, in this regard, will have to be lowered to a certain degree. But I also do wish that people will appreciate this, that government is trying to be sensitive to their plight. And therefore, when we are looking at performance, we must also know that it's also corresponding or proportional to the level of revenue that a particular government will receive. But I think overall, generally, Nigerians, we need to look at our strategy and see what do we intend to do going forward. Is this going to be just a stopgap measure for the interim, or is this something that is going to be perpetual? I think Nigerians need to know all of all this, and so we know where we are going or heading going forward. I keep using the Indian example in terms of dealing with the issue of subsidy. What they did successfully was to actually identify those who are in need of this subsidy, and directly this is paid to them as a lasting strategy. Because what that means is that the real people that you think that you are subsidizing, who live in the rural area, really do not even have access to gas as we speak. Many of them are still relying on the kerosene, which is very expensive for them to buy. So at the end of the day, really, it is the urban dwellers that we are subsidizing and not people in the rural area. So government need to do a very comprehensive assessment of its effort to see how to reduce the burden of some of all these issues on people and know who exactly are we targeting and what impact we want this to make on the masses. There are a few things that can be done in this regard, is to say, again, liberalizing the entire sector so that competition can come in, because what drives down cost is competition. And of course, this increment in terms of pricing of the cooking gas also connected to the exchange rate regime, which currently have that is floating. What are we doing in the longer run or in the middle term to drive down the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar? All these are the things that government needs to do in the immediate and see how to address the issues of the suffering that is affecting the generality of the populace.
Well, for me, I thank the government for taking off value-added tax and custom duty on cooking gas, because it is a necessity. It's no longer a thing being used by the rich only. Almost everyone these days uses cooking gas. But two things. One, how much reduction would that bring to the price of cooking gas is what I do not know, because we live in an environment where people are used to making some kind of gain, and so even when there's a reduction in the cost of production or cost of acquiring what they sell, sometimes it doesn't really reflect as it should be. That's one worry. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking this is a temporary measure, because we do not expect that for a very long time or forever value-added tax and customs duty will be taken off cooking gas. So it is a temporary measure, perhaps because of the season, to provide some relief to people in this time. But going forward, I think that seriously, the government should begin to consider how we can have more of the LNGs that produce domestic gas and other kinds of gas. And Trix talked about flaring. Yes, it's long overdue that we look at that too. And for even the gas itself, Nigeria has a lot of gas deposits. So really, we should not even be having to import this gas. But because we've not developed capacity to produce here, and that's why we're importing. So as this is done, I think the follow-up action should be, how do we begin to produce cooking gas in the quantity that we need? Because the demand for it is very high. That's what I think. But it's a good one. Let's see how much of reduction that would be. For the marketers, it's a good one, because it means they spend less getting the cooking gas. For those who use cooking gas, it should mean they pay less for it, ideally.
Right, well said. So let's move on to the next story, which has to do with Dangote Refinery. The single largest train refinery in the world, worth about $20 billion. You know, Dangote Refinery made history last week, precisely on Thursday, when it received the first shipment of crude oil, about 1 million barrels. And the interesting thing is, we've been waiting for this. December is here, and Dangote has lived up to expectation by receiving the first shipment. But let's look at the implication of these on local production of oil, because this is what we've been clamoring for Nigeria to start producing its oil, you know, refining its own oil, and perhaps maybe in a few months that's going to have impact on the prices of this commodity. Let me take it to Chooks. This is quite significant, isn't it?
Oh, yes. We all crossed our legs and we've been waiting for this particular refinery to just turn on the switches and said, we are on. And we are happy. We will blow our own trumpet. Even if any other media house outside this continent won't. Dangote refinery is on and is working. They've gotten the first shipment of crude, and I think the second has also landed. And in no time, we will start seeing refined products from there. No matter the percentage it's doing, is adding to the national quantity and is reducing what we are going to import. Now this will give way for competition. Others will now go further and also start. There are modular refineries in Owerri that are expanding. There are in Port Harcourt. And also, don't forget, the Port Harcourt refinery, we are looking forward to it kickstarting this December. But give and take, they are saying even if it doesn't start this December, by first quarter of next year. So things are certainly going to look up. We want to say, Nigerians, let's be hopeful. It's our country, let's be hopeful. Let's pass through this hard time in this short period and speak positively about our nation. Things are not that bad as people paint it. So if we have more of refined product, things will get better, life will get better. And for everyone working in Dangote refinery, think Nigeria first. Things will get better.
All right, let me seek the opinion of Idahosa. Chooks feel with these development, things will get better. What's your opinion? Do you agree with him?
Yeah, I do agree with Chooks that a lot of things will get better, but whether it's the pricing that I'm not too certain about. At least in terms of availability, it will be easier that once the refinery is working at home, the lag between importation and the delivery of the petroleum product would have been reduced significantly so that there are no scarcity or hoarding of petroleum products across the globe. And of course, we know that the international crude price will continue to affect the pricing of the product from time to time. And of course, the margin of profit that will be of that particular production. Hopefully, we're looking at a better situation, and I think that's what Nigeria has prayed for, to see that you drive into the filling station, you don't need to spend too many hours looking for fuel, and then we can buy it. And to that extent, for me, it's a welcome development. There's a whole lot of expectation that we're all having. People are thinking that, oh, with the refinery, it's going to get the price crashed down. I don't know how substantial that will be, because from current calculations on the template for pricing in Nigeria, if you take logistics and clearing away, it's just about 17 naira from the price. Of course, 17 naira is a huge difference if it does happen and we take it away. But also looking at the logistic issues within, also have to affect the transportation of this crude from one point to another, is also issues that we must also have to take cognizance of. But congratulations to Dangote and to the entire nation for this feat. And we can't wait to see the product come out into the market, the Dangote petrol, so that Nigerians can heave a sigh of relief from the shocks that come from speculative buying and panic buying that occurs, especially around festive period.
Okay, talking about festive period, this one is a story that is not a good one to happen at this particular time, as Kenya Airways braces for potential flight disruptions as global spare parts shortage hits maintenance schedule. Okay, so Chips, what do you think would be the implication of this on other countries' aviation sector? Because as far as spare parts for maintenance is concerned, it's not something that only one country has to secure or have to purchase when they do maintenance for aircraft. So it's hitting Kenya now. Who knows what country it will hit next? And this is a time where you have more traffic for air travelers.
Okay, that particular industry, when it comes to manufacturing, even the big names, the Boeings, the Airbus, majorly they are assembly plants. A lot of the parts are made from different parts of the world. Different countries make different things. And these other people now assemble based on their own specifications. Now, this is where it now gets difficult for we here in Africa. we don't make any here. So when you are going to buy, just like it used to be before for vehicles, you queue. So if I make order first, you queue. So I'm just trying to guess. Maybe a lot of African airlines.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing H.A., Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of oil-based solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is a bismarck. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, we sincerely apologize for that break in transmission. You know, it's one of those things, it happens, but what's more important is when things happen, we move ahead. It's the Early Exchange where we shape policy and advance development with our conversation. Like you know, it's your program. You can be part of this conversation. Today we'll be focusing on the banking sector. You know, a directive was given by the NIBSS last week to all banks to enlist all non-deposit financial institutions from their transfer list. We'll be looking at this shortly. We're looking at the implication of this, what will be the impact of this on bank customers, and for bank, what do they need to do? And even for the non-deposit financial institutions, what will be the impact of this directive? Most of them, you know, have started, you know, complying with that circular, with that directive. Don't forget, like I said, you can go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page to share your view and also tell us you applied for, if you're a financial service provider, you're a bank customer, to also let us know your opinion in regards to this directive and the impact it has had on you. Blessing, the CBN, you know, also corroborated this directive, giving the impression that it's against the guidelines of the Central Bank of Nigeria. You agree with me that when a directive comes like this, it has implication on the part of the bank, yes, on the part of the customer itself, even for the non-deposit financial institutions who have built their facilities around this kind of services. They will be definitely going to be impacted. And also, you know, when you look at the transfer list, some of these tech companies or financial tech companies over time, they've also, they are stakeholders who are also affected by this. So we're painting all the sides today. We're going to hear on the side of the bank, what will be the implication for bank customers, what will be the implication, what do they need to know? Because with this directive, it's going to impact on the development. And also for other stakeholders who are in that sector, it's also a form of awareness for them to understand what they need to do. And that's why our expert will join us shortly to look at that.
Yes, you know that the CBN, you recall that the CBN governor, Olayemi Kadusu, at the CIBN dinner, when he was talking about the thrust of the CBN's monetary policy and the economic outlook for 2024, he mentioned that one of the things the CBN will be doing is the review of licenses. And so the NIBSS directive is a follow-up to that. So the CBN, what the CBN is trying to do in partnership with the NIBSS is to ensure that institutions provide services for which they are licensed. You don't branch out to offer services you're not licensed for. And for the non-deposit financial institutions, one of the issues that he raised was that they are not licensed to receive deposits. And so they're branching out into that. You now have some payment platforms acting as banks themselves when actually they should not be doing that. So for this, it comes with a lot of implications for all the stakeholders, like you rightly mentioned. For the banks themselves, yes, because these NDFIs sort of provide infrastructure for them to actually carry out their works, particularly as it concerns e-transfers. So it means that even the customers will be affected. But I believe that this will open the door for collaboration with the payment platforms and the banks. And so it should also be a time or an opportunity for the banks to upgrade their infrastructure, because some of the services rendered by the NBFIs, the switches and payment platforms, will now be done by banks. So are they prepared for the workload? Are they prepared for that kind of stress, so to speak? Because at the moment it's going to feel like stress on them. So it's an opportunity for them to actually upgrade their infrastructure. There may be one or two problems or hitches that customers may experience trying to do transactions, and normally it should be seamless. But over time, it's a way of shaping and actually whipping everybody back into line.
All right, Alanti Dauza is still there. Let me have your take on this before we let you go, as regards this directive for banks to enlist non-deposit financial institutions from the NIBSS transfer list. What do you think will be the implication of this kind of development to the banks, to the financial services, to the fintech, and also to some of the customers who might likely be affected?
Yeah, my take is just that as a people, we must learn to play by the rule. Everywhere in the world, when they give you a license to operate, you operate based on the terms of the license that you were given. Your memorandum article of association tells what business we should do. Sometimes we try to moralize lawlessness and people's inability to play by the rule. So I think this is the real issue here. So we should stop moralizing lawlessness, let people play by the rule. And since the CBN governor said mandate is to do what the law says, and I think for me it's commendable. These platforms, it's not as if one can do what they're doing, really, that's not the truth, but we just create this opportunity here and there for some people to make gains. And of course, we also know that people within the system, they all have their hands in all this, especially in the growth of the fintech. A lot of people within the central bank also have violated this rule. And so the CBN governor is clear. Let's be led by rules. Let's focus on what the law says. And so if people want to do special things, then they should go through the appropriate channel. And that makes regulatory functions very simple and easy to do from those who have been empowered by law to do so.
Right. You know, a part of the circular also stated that according to NIBSS, that henceforth whoever is going to engage in this kind of services or payment services will have to obtain license from the CBN. And I keep wondering, or won't keep wondering, why did we find ourselves in this kind of situation where those people were not licensed in the first place to do this? And, you know, they decided to go into it. What does it suggest about the system, and what should be done for us not to have a repeat of this?
I can't hear you at all.
Okay, my statement earlier was the fact that part of this, the directive or the circular also stated that henceforth, whoever, any of the fintechs who's going to engage in this kind of services will have to obtain license. And I'm wondering, how did we find ourselves in this situation where those people weren't licensed in the first place, you know, and now they find themselves in that space, operating in that space? What does that suggest about the need for us to standardize and the lessons from some of the previous development we have in that sector? It seems we've lost connection with Idauza. Okay, maybe it's a way to, you know, it's, you know, when internet comes with it's a streak. There's nothing you can do about it. It's a universal problem. Yes. But I think it's a welcome development. My take is the timing, could disrupt a lot of things, because around this time a lot of economic activities are taking place, financial activities. But it's better late than never. It's better we get it right now. And I'm happy the CBN governor is in partnership, with this, is giving the right support for us to get it better. I remember when we went to the CIBN dinner, one of the things the CBN governor said is that is going to come up with the right framework to ensure that the CBN does not derail from its primary responsibility, unlike the last regime or era, where the issue of monetary policy, the CBN was distracted from that sole responsibility. They went into fiscal policy and even took up the role of commercial banking, who was supposed to be strictly for commercial banks. The CBN was just into several things. It was quite embarrassing. But I'm happy he said, he owned up to it in the first place and said this time around it's not going to be business as usual. The CBN is going to focus on its main responsibility, which is the monetary policy, which I think with the kind of seriousness being displayed by the CBN governor, let's hope things will get better in that sector.
Yes, we do hope it will work out well. Of course it will at the end of the day, but not without some hiccups. And how the CBN, together with the commercial banks and even the switches, payment platforms, handle it determines how long the hiccup will be and how much the banking populace will need to suffer. Because you may have the switches connect for every transaction that is done, particularly for interbank transaction. So how long would the licensing take, and how is it going to be done? Is it that there's going to be a period of time in which you can operate while you get your license and every other thing? I do not know, but I do hope that it doesn't as much disrupt transactions for the season and even beyond. But I know that at the end of the day, the financial sector will be better for it.
All right, that's great. Let me appreciate Dr. Idahosa for your take on this. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll have our guest here with us to tell us the impact or the implication of this directive, and that will happen after this short break. Stay with us.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Sook News. If you're not watching Sook News, I pity you, but keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timmy Dakolo, and you're watching Sook News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Sook News. Guys, keep watching Sook News for everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news. Sook News is your station.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekbetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Suk Enlightenment.
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of oil-based solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, if you're just joining us, indeed, you're in the right place at the right time. We got you covered. We're looking at the NIBSS directive to banks, to remove non-deposit financial institutions from their transfer list. And that's what we want to talk about. Interestingly, our guest is ready for us. He's going to shed more light on this directive, what will be the impact on the banking sector. Joining us virtually is Destiny Owobo. He's an economist, a statistician, and the CEO, P-Brain Tutorials. Destiny, glad to have you joining us on Early Exchange this morning.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to have you here too.
Great. So let's start with the motive behind this directive. You're aware that it's going to make impact on the banking and the financial sector. So take us through what will be the impact of this directive on the financial sector, on the banking sector, and do you agree with the motive being given as the circular stated that is in line with CBN guidelines? We'd like you to shed more light on this.
Yes, the central bank is a regulator and is to ensure stability in the financial system. So banks are basically corporate organizations that are having most of their liabilities to the public. Okay, so when there's poor regulation, it can lead to what we call a bank crisis or a bank run. Now, since bank deposits are the biggest liabilities to the public, the central bank always does a lot of regulation to protect the interest of the depositors. And that is why we have the National Deposit Insurance Corporation, which ensures that deposits are insured in the case of a bank failure, a bank crisis, or a bank run. Now, when an institution does deposit functions without having it in its objects or being registered for that, it puts the system at risk. Therefore, the central bank comes in to ensure that people obey the rules and play by those rules, because when there's a bank crisis, it has what we call a domino effect on the entire economy. If there's a reason to believe that deposits are no longer secure with financial institutions, then these people, when there's a tendency for trouble, it may affect the entire system in a bank run crisis where people begin to have the catch-on or bandwagon effect, and then moves from these unregulated sectors to the regulated sector. So we don't want that. So the central bank policy of saying that these organizations should play by the rules is in line with the articles, the act that establishes it. Now, the NIBBS simply saying that if you are not registered to accept deposits like deposit money banks, you should not be part of the payment system. But they are not really saying they are not part of the system. They're only saying that they should not accept deposits. So they are switching, should not be for deposits, but only for payments. They are registered for payment services, not for deposit acceptance. So it is totally in line with the CBN guidelines. It is ultimately to protect the depositors and to protect the financial system from any leakages or problems that may create a bank crisis, which we don't want.
All right, Destiny, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you too. Yeah.
For those who already have funds deposited with these NDFIs, what happens or what should happen?
Normally, they can transfer the money out of those accounts. It doesn't really threaten them. The circular was to ensure that they don't accept deposits, but you can transfer out of those accounts to any commercial bank. So the switching system does not prevent people from having access to their money. It only means that they are not registered as depositors. The reason for that is if these people begin to accept deposits, then they may run away with people's deposits. They are not insured by the NDIC because they are not licensed depositors. So it's actually to protect the depositor and to ensure stability in the financial system. So people can always send their money out of those accounts if they feel threatened, but it doesn't in any way stop normal transactions.
All right, I'm wondering, just like some Nigerians too are wondering, why do we have to allow the non-deposit financial institutions to play this role over time when ideally they ought not to? What does this suggest to you about the system and the need to also standardize the operations and the services? What are the lessons inherent here?
Yeah, the lessons clear is that there are loopholes in the system that can be easily exploited. Now, the government's role is to ensure regulation. But if the government lapses in that job, then people can take advantage of the system. It's not only just in the banking system. Any business that is unregulated or where regulation lapses, then people may take advantage of that system. It's like what we observe in the bureau services. The foreign exchange bureau operators, they have guidelines by which they operate, but every time the CBN comes out saying that they flouted the rules. So we should look at it from this perspective. If there's profit to be gained in flouting a rule, then businesses' first operation is to flout the rule if there is going to be some interest to be gained. Now, the job of the CBN or the NIBBS is to ensure that these people play by the rules. Okay, so it is not every time in any system there has to be checks. There have to be monitoring checks to ensure that people play by the rules, because that is the essence of government in the first place. People will naturally try to break the rules. Okay, so the CBN must be on its toes. The NIBBS must be on its toes to ensure that such things do not happen in the future. So they are simply doing their job by simply ensuring that these depositors have access to their money and when they need it. And secondly, these companies that are not licensed for deposits should not perform depository functions. They are not licensed for it. It's also a warning to the public to make sure that the accounts they deposit their money into are licensed for that purpose. Money is a very a serious issue. It's not something we can't threaten the stability of the financial system. When there's chaos in that system, everybody gets affected. You know, we have what we call contagion. Contagion happens when there's a threat to a financial institution at one end, and then this fever catches on others. The domino effect and contagion effect allows it to flow to all legitimate financial institutions. So, for example, if depositors, maybe one of these companies fails, and depositors cannot access their funds, the information may quickly spread that all these fintechs and others, because people cannot differentiate between the ones that are licensed and the ones that are not licensed. The story flies that these institutions, they cannot have access to their money. And everybody, because we have what we call information asymmetry, there's more information in the sector than the public has, it may send a fever to these legitimate ones, which we already know. okay? And that is not healthy for the economy. It may cause a serious problem before the government could respond. So what I recommend here is that government should be proactive. Make sure they do regularly to ensure that there is continual optimal following happen for some time without the government taking note. So there must be regular.
Endear them to lots of customers. Do you think it's about their offering that perhaps is not in?
And these small time savers find these big corporate institutions as too big or too, they don't care about them. And actually, most people do not even have information about the entire financial system. So when there's lack of information, people like to do what is simply near the bankers. We are not even mentioned. Most of them are totally unknown, especially for people, those of us that are in the Southwest. I barely saw some of them that I knew, but maybe in the northern part of the country, most of these companies are more well known to the public. And most people may not know that they were not licensed for deposits. So they are actually PSP, super agents, and online banking platforms. But most of them are simply just to house, for transfer purposes, to make sure you're able to move your money from one bank to another. But they were not licensed for deposits. And there's an allure of deposits. When you have access to deposits, you can actually make more money. You can give loans to people. You can actually use the money for something. But they are not licensed for that because they don't have the capital base required to set up a bank. So people will always, it's just the same reason why people patronize the parallel markets in the foreign exchange market. The official channels are there. It is cheaper in the official channels. But what if you go to these official channels and then you don't have access to foreign exchange? So people prefer to use the black market because the black market is always liquid. You can always get money anytime. You can sell money anytime. You can also get transactions done seamlessly in a very short time. So these are some of the advantages that the unregulated market possesses, which endears people to them. In the regulated sector, there are stringent rules that ensure that they play by best practices. In the short term, they appear to be negative, but in the long term, it protects everybody. Whereas in the regulated market, it tends to be easy, seamless, but high risk. That's the trade-off. We are looking at seamlessness and high risk. There's a trade-off between those two. Seamlessness is enjoyed in the unregulated market, while low risk is enjoyed in the regulated market. Yeah.
I would still like you to give us, an idea of the impact of this on the non-deposit financial institutions who have invested in the infrastructure to provide this kind of services. What will be the impact on their businesses and their investment?
Actually, they were not licensed to do these transactions in the first place. So the impact will be simply disturbing causing a disequilibrium in their operations at the moment. But there's a window. They can also get licenses for deposits by simply approaching the CBN and getting required licenses. The operations in the interim, what it simply do, it will force them to register as depositors and fulfill those obligations required by the CBN. It will not totally impact their operations because they were not even licensed for it in the first place. They have their primary business that will not be impacted immediately heavily because it's not as if they controlled a lot of deposit potential of the public. They only control a fraction of the total deposits in the monetary system. But their primary business will be affected because of what we call a novelty effect. People are getting information. In the short term, in the next 2 weeks, people have not been able to adjust to the correct state of things. So people are going to be acting on a bandwagon on a news item they don't have the full picture about. So in the short term, in the next 2 weeks, there's going to be disequilibrium in their system. But by January, it will settle down. People will go back to their normal operations with them, and then everything will get to normal. It's just like what happens when there's an earthquake. It takes time for it to settle down. The information that was spread to the public, we create some kind of quick disequilibrium, which will not last. It's not going to last more than 2 weeks because the right information will spread, and then they'll be able to get assured of their money in the system. What it will do in the interim is that people will transfer their deposits out of those banks fast, and then that may affect their operational flows. That's in the interim. But in the long term, we expect that it will go back to equilibrium.
All right, looking at this, it looks like it's a win situation for the conventional banks. When people get into the panic mode and transfer funds, it looks like it's getting back into the conventional banking system. What's your take?
Yeah, in the short term, it will seem like that because people are scared. They are transferring money to them. Conventional banks benefit from our deposits. They use them for business. So it will seem like that, but it's not going to last very long. It's just going to last not more than 2 weeks, where people get adjusted to what it was before those people violated the rules. Yeah.
Okay, what kind of intervention could come from either the CBN or NIBSS for Nigerians or consumers who are likely going to be affected to have a proper understanding of the implication of this directive? What kind of intervention in terms of public enlightenment can be done in order to erase what we call misconception about the spirit of this letter or the circular itself?
Yes, they just need to put out more information to clarify the objectives and the reason why they are doing that. They must also find a way to protect those other companies we are talking about. They shouldn't be treated like victims. They should be seen as stakeholders in the banking system. You know, it's not a one-sided argument. The central bank and the NIBBS has to understand that those are positive stakeholders. They simply make transactions easier in the economy. They help to deepen the financial system. And so they cannot be treated as if they are criminals. They have to be treated as willing stakeholders. And that means more information to the public, more information. And I also think the press has a role to play in this regard. The purpose of this program is to enlighten the public about the implications of the NIBBS directive on banks, so that they get the right information and they don't continue to spread false or limited information. So information, more information, more information, more information. The more information the public gets from the stakeholders, the more better decisions they can make regarding what's happening to those financial institutions. Ultimately, it should be a win-win situation for both parties, not a win-lose situation, because those people are also valid stakeholders in the financial system. Yeah.
So does this development create room for collaboration between some FDIs, fintech, and even the conventional banks?
Their businesses are actually naturally connected, because the banking sector works better when there's integration, when they can connect to each other. It's just like the network telecom companies. A telecom company's utility goes down when it cannot connect to other telecom companies. So it's a network system. It is actually in their best interest to collaborate with the existing players and work very well so that the system works seamlessly. It is not in their best interest to go antagonistic. They should be collaborative in whatever they want to do. It is actually in the best interest of all players. In fact, commercial banks too should also understand that those people are not direct competitors, because they are actually help to deepen the financial system. It is also in the best interest of commercial banks to reach out to those people and even help them find a way to get licenses. Their core business is actually not like the business of commercial banks. Their core business is mainly processors. They process payments. They also help to deepen the financial system. They are not depositors. They don't accept deposits. They have their own primary core business for which they are registered. And so it is in the best interest that transfers are able to flow seamlessly between the two institutions. They are not supposed to be antagonistic in their operations. Yeah.
All right, the CBN has insisted that licensing has to be the order of the day. Now, my question is, how soon do you think the right framework for this can be provided, and what will be the impact of this on their businesses? What kind of regulatory role do you also expect the CBN to play henceforth to ensure that we don't have a repeat of this?
Yes, the purpose of the CBN, like I said, is to ensure stability in the financial system. And crucial to that is regulation. Now, the CBN has standard rules, operating rules, by which firms who want to be depositors, accept deposits from members of the public, should operate. So these rules cannot be relaxed just because the central bank wants to put everybody in. We must understand that the purpose of the rules was to protect the depositors, which are more important in the entire stakeholder business. Okay, we are talking about money here. People's livelihoods depends on their deposit safety. In fact, it informs why they created the National Deposit Insurance Corporation. That's tell you how important it is to give some people some measure of hope or some measure of faith in the financial system, that if you lose your money through a bank, for instance, you can file to the National Deposit Insurance Corporation, and then you may have some access to some of your deposits, okay? At least minimum. So the same thing, these rules are stringent. In every country in the world, the central bank ensures that the rules are obeyed and that the rules are not easy to break. And so it's not about getting all the players into it. It's to ensure that companies play by the rules. Now, if these companies want to become accept deposits, they have to play by the rules. The standards are there. So what the CBN should do is not to make it difficult for them to assess those standards, is to give them enough information, enough assurance that will allow them to come legitimately to get registered. There are banking rules for banking licenses. So those people, it is the onus falls on them to meet those demands of the CBN, the same demands that are given to other commercial banks, that are given to merchant banks, the same demands that are given to all the investment banks and others in the financial system. For them to accept deposit, those rules must be obeyed. And we shouldn't be looking at it from those companies' perspective. We should be looking at it from the depositors' perspective, which are the big people in the system. We have trillions of naira in the deposit system, and these trillions of naira needs to be protected to ensure stability of the system. So we cannot allow a group of companies who have a profit interest to allow to let their will supersede the wills of 200 million Nigerians, all right? So we must be looking at it from the regulatory perspective, not from how it is going to affect the company, because the companies are not more important than the depositors these rules were meant to protect.
Thank you very much, Destiny Owobo, economist and statistician, for talking to us this morning about the NBSS directive to the banks, all of those in the financial sector, regarding the non-deposits financial institutions and the extra activity of receiving deposits. We're not done with the conversation. We're going to quick break, and Destiny will still be with us when we return. Please stay tuned.
My name is Olatunji Shoti-Miri. I'm a performing artist and television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souk News. If you're not watching Souk News, I pity you, but keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timidakolo, and you're watching Souk News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souk News. Guys, keep watching Souk News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souk News is your station.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Ache, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of oil-grade solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's a bismarck. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Many thanks for staying with us on Early Exchange. And this morning, the focus is on the NIBSS directive for the disconnection of switchers, payment solution service providers, and super agents from NIBSS instant payment outward systems. And looking further into the issue, we were joined by Mokhtar Mohammed, who is a financial analyst, to look at the implications of this on the issues. But before we bring in Mokhtar, we still have Destiny Owubu, and so we'll just conclude with Destiny before we get on to Mokhtar. All right, Destiny, thank you for staying with us. Now, looking forward into this, in the long term, this seemed like the start of shakeups in the financial sector regarding licenses by the CBN. How do you see the financial sector in the long term in this direction that the CBN is going?
I'm here now, I'm listening to them. Yes, like I said, there's no threat to the financial system in immediate. When we hear such news, we should see it as the CBN doing his job or the NIBSS doing their job. We must understand that it is the onus of these companies to focus on the objects for which they were registered. When a company files to the government to be registered or to the financial regulator, they normally stipulate what business they want to do. All right. So it is the responsibility and prerogative of these companies to focus on their objects, which they stated in their documents, operating documents. All right. So the CBN is doing its job. That should send confidence to the depositors, to the public, that there's a regulation of the financial system. The CBN is on it. We have had a lot of problems with the value of the naira, the value of the foreign exchange, and this has brought the CBN on a negative light in the last 6 months. We cannot afford to have a bank crisis with all of this. So the CBN is stepping in. These companies are doing their job, trying to ensure that we don't create loopholes that will allow people to take advantage of the system and not put us in more financial ruin. All right. So that's the job. So what it means, the message it sends to the entire financial system is more stability. The government is on top of the job. The agencies are working as they are designed. So it is hopeful. It is hopeful for depositors that there's no immediate threat to their deposits. Yeah.
All right, Destiny, we must appreciate you for your time with us on Early Exchange this morning. Know that you've given us the right perspective when it comes to this directive to non-deposit financial institutions. Thank you for your submissions.
Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.
All right, we'll go on a short break now. When we return, our special guest, Mokhtar, will be here with us to also shed more light on the implication of this development. Stay with us.
My name is Olatunji Shoti-Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Sook News. If you're not watching Sook News, I pity you, but keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timidakolo, and you're watching Sook News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Sook News. Guys, keep watching Sook News for everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news. Sook News is your station.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji-Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souk Enlightenment.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Ache, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
The government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of oil-based solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
No doubt you've been enjoying the show as much as we're providing you insight into the new NIBSS directive. We're also enlightening you about where you live and about Nigeria. So let's bring you Souk enlightenment. This time around, we'll be telling you some important things about TBS, Tafawa Balewa Square, and some other parts of Lagos. And then we'll return to look more into the implications of the NIBSS directive. Stay tuned.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekbetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souk Enlightenment.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of oil-based solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is a bismarck. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to know you are still there with us. Like I always say, Early Exchange will always get bigger and better. And here it is. Don't forget, it's also your program. You can be part of the conversation. For you, what do you think will be the impact of this directive on you as a bank customer? You can go on our social media platform, on our YouTube platform at Souk News to share your view using the hashtag Early Exchange. And now we want to look at the impact of this directive on fintech, companies who have invested their infrastructure, as regards this payment service. And to shed more light on this, we are being joined by Dotun Adekunle, who is the Vice President, Head of Risk at Flutterwave. Dotun, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Look forward to this session.
Great. I would like to know, when you got the news of this directive, of this circular, how did you receive the news? And I would like you to tell us your experience when you got the directive or you got the circular, a copy of the circular, and then by extension, what do you think will be the impact of this on your services and other fintech companies who have invested in these resources over time?
Thanks very much. I think that it came as something that was unexpected. Immediately the circular came out, I had lots of people reaching out to me from who are friends and colleagues across the industry, and a number of customers and clients also reaching out, wanting to know what the implications will be for their business and for their relationships with us as a payments company. But I think that above all, these the restrictions have always been there. So it's not as if it's a new restriction that was introduced, but that over time, different organizations just went and did what they felt was necessary for the market, so that non-deposit taking institutions started taking deposits by leveraging the NIP platform, which is something that is very, very powerful and has transformed the payment infrastructure for Nigeria as a whole. But in terms of impact, Portaway, for instance, is not affected by this. Our services will continue the way we already run, so we are not affected in any way. But there are several institutions that are affected, and everybody is in that adjustment mode to try and just put your services back at a place where you're still able to serve the customers, especially those who are new businesses that are at the base of the pyramid and all that. So that's kind of where it is at the moment. But it came as an unexpected surprise.
Okay, Dotun, could you help provide some enlightenment on the role of banks and payment services? There seems not to be a clear understanding of what the payments platforms can do and cannot do. Just help us with that.
All right. Thank you very much. So banks or deposit-taking institutions. I think there are three or four categories. First, we have the deposit money banks. That's your regular commercial or merchant banks or mortgage banks. So the likes of GT Bank, First Bank, and Co. are all commercial banks. Two, you have the MMOs, mobile money operators. I think the likes of Opia, PalmPay, and Co. are MMOs. Then you have the microfinance banks. There are several of them, and then you have the PSBs. These four categories are able to take deposits directly. That means on the NIP platform, they should be able to receive funds. That means when you transfer from whatever bank app you have, you should be able to show up on those banks or institutions should show up on the platform. Then you have non-deposit taking institutions. So the likes of a Furtherwave, a Paystack, and all payment processors help to bring technology that helps the businesses or merchants or customers to access services better than what a typical bank will be able to provide. The banks are designed for branch operations to serve customers in the banks, while the fintechs are more designed to go into the businesses, into the rural areas, and provide solutions that enable financial services to get to those places in the market and in the industry as a whole. So the banks cannot do without the fintechs cannot do without the banks. It's a mutual beneficial relationship. It's very symbiotic, and that's the way it should run. So what NIBS has done and the CBN has done is just to say, let's keep the lines very delineated so that we know that deposit taking will happen at the banks, and innovative financial services will most likely keep happening at the fintech layer. Not that the banks will not do their own, but mostly these innovations will still be primarily coming from the fintechs and this kind of players in the industry.
All right. I would like you to give us a background information or tell us an account of how the non-deposit financial institutions, have been able to play these roles over the years without being licensed or regulated. How did they find themselves in this space in the first place? Give us a short account of how it happened, and then how did we get to this level?
I think that over the last decade thereabout, with the evolution of mobile money, especially with what happened in Kenya And then it began to trickle down across Africa, and also Nigeria also saw that begin to happen. We had people in the markets beginning to respond and require several other types of financial services that the banks were not readily able to provide. First is that the evolution of mobile phones and the proliferation of mobile phones and mobile internet allowed people to be able to then carry out financial services on their phones and not necessarily need to go to a bank to queue to do those things. The banks did not respond in a very rapid manner, and that gave the opportunity to fintech players to come into the market and try and provide those kind of services to people, because people really don't like to go to banks to queue for any service. So fintechs began to take that opportunity and close the gap. And now people are used to having those services. If you're traveling across Nigeria today and you try to go by road and you have to make payments to people, you find out that most of the payments or the accounts that they will give you will be accounts that are non-bank accounts, because they feel that these accounts are faster, they are handy, the tech is cheap, is accessible, it has multiple alternatives, and more than what they would typically get from their bank. Also, they have sometimes lower KYC requirements than the banks would typically require from them to onboard to become a customer. And so people naturally gravitate towards these solutions. But I think that the directive from NIBS and the CBN most likely is to help to curb the occurrence of things like fraud, so that there is traceability, and that we can really hold everybody to account to know that this transaction occurred, we know where it occurred from, we know whose account it hit, and that person, someone that's identifiable and traceable. I think those are the measures that the central bank is trying to make to bring about a difference. I think it's for the better, but we would have to adjust and just be better.
What kind of transactions do you see this directive affecting, and how can things be done so it doesn't give much shock or much interruptions in the financial system?
So I think that if I want to speak on behalf of merchants and customers, I think it's important for everyone to have more than one account. I think that's something that everyone has to, first of all, imbibe. The biggest people, or the largest share of the market that would have an impact, a big impact, will be those small and medium scale enterprises who have opened virtual accounts with a number of financial service providers, and those accounts are they use it to as a receptacle for their funds or for their businesses, and they may have done complex integrations into those systems. They may depend on it, their payroll, several things may depend on these things, on these accounts. And over the next few weeks, everybody will have to make adjustments to see that they're able to move their receiving account into a regular bank account or a microfinance bank account or PSB or MMO account. Those will be the safer places to keep money, so that you're not affected by any regulatory change or any change in the landscape. That's one option for people to do. Secondly, is that I think that we need to enlighten the public more on the different types of institutions, so that when you're onboarding on any platform, you are very much aware that this is not a deposit-taking institution. Yes, they can offer services to you. They can do your payroll management. They can do your tax management. They can help. They can build your loyalty schemes and all those kind of financial tools that you need to be able to offer services to your customers. But you know that they're not deposit-taking, and then you ask and you inquire very clearly, and you check what licenses anybody you are partnering with has and what they can or they cannot do. I think those are things that are important for the teeming populace to be aware of going forward. I think there have been rejoinders from a number of organizations to say, hey, we're a financial service provider and we are partnering with this bank to do this. So we'll see more collaboration going forward between the banks and the fintech players. But as the masses need to be educated so that they know what their providers can do or cannot do.
I'd like you to talk to us. How do you think fintech companies who have invested in this, how will they cope with this kind of directive? And then what kind of challenges will this portend for them, even with the issue of licensing that the CBN is coming up with now? How should they adjust to these development, adjust their business model to this development, and the likely challenges that may come forth from this development?
Yeah, it's going to take months. It's going to take months, especially when you have built your business model round about these types of services and believing that you are able to receive funds. And now that the regulation has come forth, people will have to do a lot of work to change their infrastructure. So that it can then support the new paradigm. People will have to seek out partnerships with banks. It will have financial impact, of course. There will be technology impact. A number of merchant customers will be lost. So the impact is not something that is minute for a number of organizations. But then, as far as technology is concerned, they can always make the necessary course correction. And in a matter of 3 to 4 months, I think that most organizations will become comfortable with this directive going forward. But then the business models will have to change. The way they make money will have to change. The way they serve their customers will have to change. There'll be impact on the loss of certain categories of customers who prefer them to work with the banks directly. So the way forward really is collaboration between the fintechs and the banks to offer a solution that will meet the needs of these people. That's what I see going forward, really. But there will be impact, and to be costly.
So that impact happening at this time of the year, do you in any way see this directive as wrongly timed?
In a regulated industry, you have to know that there will be reasons and justifications behind why this directive has come at this time. I know, for instance, that during the Yuletide season, that's when you also have lots of transactions occurring that are fraudulent in nature. That's when people lose the money and lose money the most in this period. And I think those are the things that will be driving the directive from NIBS. But at the same time, it will also be the biggest moment of period of impact, because naturally, if you know the curve of Nigeria in terms of financial transactions, from when we get to the last quarter, you always see a spike growing to as much as 150, 200% increase in the volume of transactions that occur on a day-to-day basis. And so there will be severe impact on a number of businesses, and people will have to rapidly transit. For those who have options, they will be fine. Who already had alternatives, they'll be fine. But those who do not have, this will be severely impactful. And I think that we're now seeing that in Nigeria regulatory space, we seem to have these regulatory changes coming at bad times. We all recall last year and early part of this year when we had to have the cash policy and the Naira redesign policy and those things, and how much impact it had on businesses. So while the timing may not be perfect, I think that the rationale behind it may be justifiable. But the timing, of course, it makes it difficult for everyone.
I would like you to share your experience with us in the last few days since this directive has been in the public domain. What would you say it has brought any disruption to existing payment flows and businesses, and how are you managing this kind of development?
I think that we're lucky for that at Furtherwave we're already well positioned, so we had zero impact, so we didn't have to do anything. The only thing was also communicate to merchants and customers that, hey, your services can continue as is. There's no disruption whatsoever. Just keep on doing. So it's just been communication management. And I think that similar people or similar organizations who are like ours are also doing that communication management. I think I've seen several mails and messages out on different platforms and to just try and educate customers. But sometimes you then see a decline in the volume of transactions because people are naturally afraid until they're re-educated and given that assurance that things are fine and you have no reason to be concerned. That's for those who have zero impact. For those organizations that this affects directly, it's a big issue because they have seen their transactions evaporate. They are also seeing their customers migrating to other platforms, and the confidence levels has dipped, and so a number of people are just going through a migration phase, looking for alternatives, and trying to encourage their customers to use those alternatives. So right now, a lot of deals are going on in the background, interfacing with several banks and microfinance banks and MMOs to just try and help their customers to still be comfortable, especially during this festive period, so that they can still continue to at least offer them some kind of service. So that's what's going on right now. A lot of rambling and people just going around to try and keep the customers comfortable. But then next year, I'm sure that people will stabilize.
So what impact would this have on financial inclusion? You agree that some of these NDFIs who had gone on to become deposit banks were closest to the people?
Yes. Yes. I think that like I was saying before, that I think the SMEs and some of the consumers at the base of the pyramid will be the most affected because they have imbibed or adopted solutions from fintechs who are now being deprived of the ability to take deposits. So those persons will naturally withdraw their cash right now, and they may go back into their recluse for the time being until other providers are able to come into the market with the right and appropriate licenses, so that they can then offer them service. Of course, they will lose some trust in the whole system, knowing that they had been wooed into the financial system, only to be disappointed that they cannot continue to transact with some of the entities that they have been transacting with. But nonetheless, I think there are enough players in the market that are appropriately licensed to take advantage of the opportunity. So while you're seeing that some other markets, some other players are getting out of the market and people are getting disgruntled, there are other players who would push and rush into the market to take advantage of the situation. So it's the market will even out eventually.
Can you give us a picture of the kind of consolidation or competition that may arise now that the CBN or the NIBS has insisted now that the way to go is licensing? Give us a picture of the likely competition and consolidation that might likely occur.
So I see a shift. I'm already besides seeing that shift before now. Over the last 1 to 2 years, we've seen a number of banks change their structure to become holding companies, so that they have at least a fintech arm and they have a banking arm, so that the banks are able to then use their fintech arm to compete with the financial technology giants that are already existing, and use that structure, because what you see is that the regular banking structure seems not to be effective to getting to the base of the pyramid and to the SMEs and providing the solutions that are really needed at those spaces. And the fintechs are able to do that because they are more structured to get down into those nooks and crannies of the federation, right? So banks are having to adjust their structure, create a holding company, create a separate structure that will then be able to compete with the fintechs in that regard. At the same time, we're seeing that some fintechs have grown quite large, and we're seeing fintechs in the last 1 to 2 years acquire microfinance banks or get some form of banking license or the other, so that they're able also to have the necessary licensing and regulatory backing, so that they can play in the space of lending and really get to provide services to the customers that they have been able to reach, which the banks have hitherto been unable to reach. They have been able to reach them. They just need that regulatory backing. So we'll see a scramble for licenses as we go into 2024. Fintechs getting banking licenses, and banks getting fintech licenses as part of their OCO. So we see intense competition and rivalry coming in 2024 and beyond. But I think it will be good for the common man on the street. Financial inclusion will really happen because of these adjustments and changes that are going to come. So I think in the long run, we will see things benefit everybody. Just that in the short term, there is an impact to this regulatory direction.
Okay. As a way of informing the banking populace and enabling people know which institution offers a particular service or where to go to, what should the CBN do? Should there be a kind of portal that you go to and you just have a list of all the banks, you know which does what? Is that possible?
Yes, I think that definitely that's a very good suggestion. I think the CBN puts it somewhere on their websites today, but I don't think that it has circulated well enough. There are just thousands or hundreds of fintechs in Nigeria today. One is not able to, the common man on the street is not able to distinguish what services can be offered by each player. So I think that on the part of the central bank and NIBS, more needs to be done in terms of communicating who can offer what kind of services. What has happened in the last 1 to 2 weeks is you've had lots of fintechs coming out to say, I'm not affected. Some are silent, and people are still a little bit confused because then they don't know whether to take the word of the particular fintech to the market and say, yes, this is fine. I think what will really be best is if something comes from NIBS directly or from CBN direct to say, these are those who are able to do this and these services, and these are those who are able to do this other type of services, and make it very, very clear. Now, all this is already available in the CBN framework, right? But then I think more needs to be done in terms of communication. We've seen that in the last few weeks in the last few days as well. We've seen that there have been lots of miscommunication when you find, especially the online media, saying these banks cannot no longer receive payments, and many of those such information were actually incorrect or inaccurate because the directive was misinterpreted by those who do not know the nuances of what a PSSP is and what a PSB is, and what a deposit money bank is. So I think that more communication is needed to really clarify for everyone who can take deposits and who cannot take deposits, and who can process transactions online, who can process transactions on POSs and things like that.
All right, Dr. Adekunle, the head of Risk at Flutterwave, we must thank you for your time and your commitment you've actually shed more light on this and for our viewers and for Nigerians to have a proper understanding of what this development will bring to their businesses. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Just to say that I'm not the head of risk, I'm senior vice president for offline. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that correction. That's noted, and we apologize for that. Thank you for your time and your commitment with us on Early Exchange this morning. We're quite grateful.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're due for another break. We are not done yet. Just like we always have the best for you. We still have another guest who's going to give us another perspective about this development. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, our conversation with our new guests will kick off. Stay with us.
My name is Olatunji Shotimiri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souk News. If you're not watching Souk News, I pity you, but keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timidakolo and you're watching Souk News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souk News. Guys, keep watching Souk News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souk News is your station.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you're on to Souk News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is Souk News.
Shout out to Souk News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souk News. Here's the Souk News who had the courage to transcend a locked off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souk News. Thank you very much.
If you want to advertise your product, just call me.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Sook News. If you're not watching Sook News, I pity you, but keep watching Sook News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timmy Dakolo and you're watching Sook News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Sook News. Guys, keep watching Sook News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Sook News is your station.
On social media, many Nigerian young companies were celebrating, wow, we raised Series C, we raised Series D. And anytime they raised these monies, everybody hailed them. But what was behind it? What is behind every raise is that the entrepreneur founder is diluted significantly. We had a very interesting session, and in one of the sessions, there was a role play about a case study on CWG PLC, which is a company that I founded. And the case was written by Columbia Business School to discuss a point about venturing, about entrepreneurship, and about funding for the enterprise. And the case ended on the question, should Austin Okere take the venture capital investment or should he reject it? Just a little bit of background. So this is a company, CWG, in 2005 that was doing very well. It was riding on the back of the Y2K that just happened at the turn of the century, was riding on the back of the telecom boom that happened immediately after the civilian government of OBJ and GSM was launched, was riding on the back of the bank consolidation in 2005 that was done by Governor Soludo. And in each of these booms, CWG had positioned and taken good advantage. So this is not a company that was in dire need of cash or was desperate in 2005. But we had a plan to list our shares on the stock market, and we thought that the best way to do it was to first do either a private placement or better still to do a venture capital fundraise so that they will bring discipline into our operations, governance, strengthen our governance, and of course, bring more technical knowledge. And if people saw that this company was invested in you, probably it will make the listing on the stock exchange more attractive. The issue here is at what price? And I remember that I've discussed something similar on this on social media where many Nigerian young companies were celebrating, wow, we raised Series C, we raised Series D. And anytime they raised these monies, everybody hailed them. But what was behind it? What is behind every raise is that the entrepreneur founder is diluted significantly. So if I use CWG as a case study, the case that was written by Columbia was that there was an offer of $8 million for 25% of the company, putting the valuation post at $32 million. Make no mistake, the Treasury bill's interest rate is 15% sometimes. Now, if someone is going to bring his money to invest in your company, he's looking for way more than that 15%, given that there's a high risk that his money will not come back. And the rule of thumb is that they're looking for 3 times what they brought in within 5 years. So in our case, they were going to be asking for $24 million within 5 years, or you list and give them a liquidity event or an exit. You have to check very well that this $8 million that you're taking in, you can do business in such a way that the value of the company can cough out $24 million in 5 years, regardless of exchange loss. Here is where it gets complicated. So you receive $8 million, which is converted to you in Naira. 2005 probably was about 130. Now, whether the Naira suffers devaluation or not, you're going to pay that $8 million. Now, paying $8 million, 5 years later, where the Naira is maybe 250 or 260, whilst you are generating your revenue in Naira, becomes almost impossible. And if the venture capital firm then has to take assets because you can't pay, he will end up owning of course, a big chunk of your company, nothing at all, you begin to look like a management staff in the company you founded. So in our own case, we held out and we didn't take the money. And in 2009, when we took a subsequent one, the company was valued at $55 million, plus that there'd been an exchange loss. So the company was valued much more than the $32 million, and plus the fact that in Naira terms, they would have owned more of our company. My point being, don't sell your seed. Rather, till your seeds, let it grow into a fruit, and sell at the fruit, because the fruit is plentiful. A lot of our startups rush out to sell their seed, and they sell it cheap. To complete that story, we actually then listed the company in 2013 for $90 million. Now, I did a rough calculation. If we were in dire need of money and we borrowed $8 million at an interest rate of 20%, at that time, Naira, we'll be returning Naira money, and we'll be returning something like, even if you take 100%, we'll be returning another $8 million in 5 years' time. But given that the company's valuation had gone to $55 million in that time, 2009, when the second PE company invested, we would have been better off taking the debt, because we'll be returning an extra $8 million, rather than 8 times 3, which is 24, that would have had to give $24 million that would have had to pay the VC company if we had taken the money at that time. So the delta is huge in terms of debt versus equity. So the point is, at some point in time, equity seems cheap, deceptively, but debt is cheaper. Especially at the early stages, what you have is a seed. You don't sell your seed. Have patience, hone it, bootstrap it, take debt to finance specific deals, makes you disciplined, and then when you have your fruit, you can then invite investors to come, and you make more, and you don't lose a huge percentage of your company. You actually do still own a huge percentage of your company. Be patient. Don't rush out to collect funds and celebrate it. You will have to pay back. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing H.A., Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of oil solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is a bismarck. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Money. There were spectacular matches played over the weekend, and upsets. Some we were expecting already, but hey, I'm not alone. I am Juvi Ufiene. I go on the space with me. Charles, what's up with you, Charles?
Good morning, Souk News. Good morning, Sportsville. It's a delight to
Good
be
morning,
here.
Nigeria. Good morning, West Africa. All right, we'll start a quick one. We don't have all day, so I'll run you through what it was at the NPL. All right, Remo is still top with 26 points, followed by Doma United, Lobby Stars. Makudi, how you doing? Number 3, Enyim by number 4 with 22 points. Bendel Insurance, 20 points, and Plateau United 19. Shooting Stars. Follow at the bottom of the log is Heartland United, and so I hope we're having fun with the latest at the NPL, but we don't want to stay there. NPL seem to be very interesting now. What's your take on what went down over the weekend?
Well, I think it's more or less the textbook stuff that happened during the weekend. Oh, you see, when you look at the rundown, you see more of home wins, which has been the, when you look at the history of MPFL games, the home always win and the away come off short, you know, all the time. We have little upsets when it comes to maybe away teams going to maybe say Enyimba's home and win all of a sudden.
There had been such upset, but not really consistent like we had over the weekend at the EPL. I mean, that brings to mind what happened, man. Not just EPL, now even Bundesliga, there was an upset as well, man. A 5-1 and Manchester United, your own club. What happened to you guys, man?
Well, I wouldn't say upset.
The very Red Devils.
That was the first time Bournemouth will ever come to Manchester United and go home with all 3 points.
All three, not just 3 points.
With three goals. I mean, this is the first time in history. So I think the Eric Ten Hag era has just gone from bad to worse to abysmal at this stage.
Is it about the coach or your guys not seeming to get their flow together?
When you have all the records being broken in the bad sense in his own time. I mean, we had 3 or 4 years of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and he still upheld the history of the club. He upheld everything, and the club just went on. But when you see Ten Hag's era, although we have won one trophy in say 7 years,
November you guys did well.
Every other thing is just going downhill. We qualify for Champions League, but it's still downhill if you look at it in the general sense of
For me, is it not about the chemistry of the everybody in the team? Because it's not just about your manager. Your guys were firing blanks. I mean, on Saturday.
Well, it still boils down to the manager, because if you are not able to spur up your team, if you're not able to motivate your players, I mean, look at Chris Wilder. Their first 3 points since the inception of this year's Premier League season, and that was inspired by change of manager.
Would it be the same for Chelsea? Well, Everton, I mean, it was a rape. It was a rape. Well, 2-0.
Well, you cannot also acknowledge. You should also acknowledge the fact that Everton is struggling right now, going through the ban. They are going through the point deduction. That is more or less like a motivation for them to do well. 3 straight wins.
But against Chelsea.
Chelsea is a disruptive club when it comes to whatever they have.
Regardless of the deals, the transfer and all that.
They are in so many crises right now. They are having monetary crisis. They are also being what is it called? They're also being tried for financial fair play, you know, breaching these rules. And also we have Man City there as well.
All right, just because we're pressed for time.
Yeah, but what I'm just trying to establish is the fact that aside what goes on the pitch, what goes on off the pitch plays a part in general performance
the locker
room
team and all that.
So let's go back to Manchester United and how they can spur them into winning. The manager has to play a vital role. So let's not rule out the manager.
All right, we hope the manager is listening to you this morning. You guys are, man, it was a shameful one, man. Oh, Manchester United. Liverpool!
Well, top of the Premier League for the first time in 2 years.
Liverpool is back. What do you have to say, man?
Well, they're
not working alone again.
It's a long time coming. It's expected, because when you see the performances, the signings and everything, it just goes to show you that it takes time for this to achieve greatness. And once you follow what you have planned out, once you follow what you have written down, and it will work.
Aston Villa is doing well.
Aston Villa is absolutely firing.
I remember you were saying something about whoever tops the league, the log. December is most likely.
December is a crazy run of fixtures when it comes to the Premier League. So whoever can survive.
Unlike Arsenal last season.
Unlike Arsenal is just, let's leave Arsenal out of it, because they fell. So let's leave Arsenal out of it. But I'm telling you, in the history of the Premier League, any team that stays up after December wins the Premier League.
In most cases, right?
In most cases. Let's leave Arsenal. Let's leave Arsenal.
Arsenal was, well, all right, 5-1. Frankfurt, yes.
I saw that coming. I called that game from the beginning. I said it. I said it that Eintracht Frankfurt at home to Bayern it always gives us the absolute best when it comes to footballing experience. It always gives us everything. And somebody told me, what should I? Oh, okay. Let's bring in sporting betting.
The speculations.
Yeah, speculations. And somebody told me that what should I play? I said Eintracht Frankfurt all the way because Bayern always goes there and they flop. Another club to
Bayern has got some new guys and.
It doesn't still. History plays. It always plays its role in sports.
All right. Over the weekend as well, LA Lakers won the in-season NBA Cup. You know, LeBron James coming up as the MVP and all that, beating Pacers to reach. It's a new one. We do hope that this turn of events will continue. And finally, let's not forget, CAF Award happens today. Today is third day. With your start the other time, do you think Osimhen stands a chance? Salah scored over the weekend.
Well, the only stiff competition I can see right now is Hakimi. That's the only stiff competition. If you talk about Salah, he did not go for the World Cup. He wasn't at the World Cup.
But he had a spectacular one over the weekend.
Will you judge based on just one performance?
There's always sentiment to this stuff, man. There's always sentiment.
You cannot judge based on just one performance or a weekend performance. Look at Hakimi. He was very instrumental in his club staying up to the semi-final in the World Cup. When you talk about Osimhen, the conversation is broad. It's broad. And Osimhen is, for me, is most deserving.
All right, Asisa to show Allah.
She always comes and she takes it every year. I think it's just going to be business as usual for us.
Okay, so I think right now Super Falcons should be looking at, let's leave African dominance, let's go to, compete with the United States and Sweden and Australia and the likes, right?
Well, I just feel like Asisa Toshoala shouldn't just be the only star that comes to mind.
But do we have replacements? Are we having
replacements? I feel like others should be able to, step up and walk into her shoes and try to fill them. You understand? I think like others should, take up this role and bring up stiff competition when it comes to this women's category, when it comes to CAF Confederations award. Because one is more or less like one person or one face. We're used to seeing one face pick up
one
the
country
award every year.
One country.
One country, yeah. So I think change is required.
All right, we do hope the authority are listening. We really need to invest more into our games, local club sides, and Remo Stars are doing well with their pitch. If other football pitches could be privatized and let people invest more in it, and that's the much we could take this morning. I hope Osimhen comes out triumphant today, and if not, we'll be having fun tomorrow. We'll be here same time, chilling on the Sports View on Early Exchange. Charles, one word before we take our leave.
It's a pleasure to be here, and this is the first of its kind, and we hope that we can continue this as time goes on. I would like to also say that we should expect more turnovers in the major 5 leagues, because if you watch, PSG almost lost it too in the weekend, so we should expect these big games and to fall the other way when it comes to juggernauts in the game. So I feel like we should expect more of this in December.
More upsets to come, and that's the much we can take this morning. Do stay tuned, and the Early Exchange team comes right after this to wrap it up. It's your boy Juvie Ofiene. Do have yourself a beautiful morning.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souk News. If you're not watching Souk News, I pity you, but keep watching Souk News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timida Kolo, and you're watching Souk News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souk News. Guys, keep watching Souk News for everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news. Souk News is your station.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is a bismarck. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, that was a good one from our sport team. The CAF Awards will be taking place today in Morocco, and we want to wish the Nigerian representatives good luck. I know they will make Nigeria proud. Blessing?
Yes, sir. Best wishes to Osimhen and to Nigeria by extension, and we do hope that African football will keep making more moves and getting into. We'll have more people picking awards, not just as CAF, but at even FIFA, and then that's the way African football keeps shining. That's been the show today. Thank you very much for watching. And for those who were not sure what the disconnection of NDFIs from NIP meant because of the NIBSS directive, I hope you've got an understanding of it. Just in case you didn't follow through, you can go back to the show on YouTube at Sook News, so you can watch all through and be properly informed, so you can make informed decision. I am Blessing AJ. Coming up at 10 o'clock here on Sook News is Business Insight. Thank you for staying and stay the rest of the day with Sook News.